So, I was scrolling through my comments section the other day, going through comments that had already been on my channel, trying to catch up because that's what I like to do. You know, I don't like to leave people hanging when they've dropped a comment. And I got this comment from Nat the Caffeine Addict. This isn't the first time I've heard people talk about Faith Scholar. Now, I know what you're thinking. Faith Scholar, he has really low faith. Why on earth would you want to play Faith Scholar? You're already playing a support character, so it only makes sense that if there are other support aspects that you can put into your build, it's going to make the supporting side of the build even better. So I looked a little bit into it, I created a build for it. Luckily I had some very good relics that could make it work, so I created a build and I did an expedition with that build. Now right off the bat, Faith Scholar in terms of casting, it's a no-go. Like, you will literally be tickling the bosses. In fact, you'll be tickling them so much, you will actually use your arcane to put them to sleep, and they'll go to sleep very fast because of how little damage you'll be doing. But when we play Faith builds, damage is not the only reason we play them. And in Nightreign, unfortunately, there isn't that many support tools that you're given. Other than the protection tools that you're given and a few of the healing spells, there isn't really much else you can do in terms of support. Now, obviously, you can use Golden Vow, but you can also find Golden Vow on a weapon. Like, it can be found on pretty much any weapon. And things like Flame Grant You Strength, you can't pass that to your allies. Like, there's no way, even when you're using like items confer, obviously because it's not an item, it's a spell, there's no way for you to pass that protection along to your allies. So realistically, there isn't a great deal you can do. So if we look at the numbers, because let's be honest, that's probably what you want to know. The Scholar at level 15 has 15 faith, which honestly is terrible. I mean, if we look at the Recluse and the Revenant, both at level 2, they've already got 15 faith, so already at level 2, Revenant, Recluse, obviously going to be a better faith caster than the Scholar, which I know we're not looking at the Scholar's damage, because let's be honest, if we're looking at Scholar's damage, there is literally no point to play him as a faith caster at all. Even if we look at someone like the Duchess at level 15 gets 27 faith, so already she's going to outdamage the Scholar by miles. Now, of course, the Scholar has things going for him, like his supporting abilities, analyze, being able to, you know, confer different buffs to your allies on the same team. So, you know, as a faith caster, he's not very good. As a faith support role, there's a question for it. Now, again, there isn't that many good faith supporting things in Nightreign, so realistically, unless you find absolute god tier faith spells, there really is no reason to play the Faith Scholar. And even the Guardian at level 15, you know, he has like 21 faith, which is more than the Scholar. So even the Guardian will out damage the Scholar in terms of faith casting. The next thing to talk about, and you know, this is a pretty obvious one, if you wanted to play a Faith Scholar, you would need to have Dormant Powers Finds Sacred Seals on. Now, there are two problems with this. First of all, if your weapon at the start of the expedition doesn't have a status on, there's going to be no way for you really to do damage unless you luckily find a weapon, because you are now going to be finding seals. And then the second part of that is if the dormant powers even works, because oftentimes you'll put dormant powers on, you won't even be getting the dormant power giving you the weapon or seals or staves that you want. And alongside that, you may not even get decent support seals. So if you're just getting, like, you know, damaging seals, Discus of Light, Lightning Spear and all that stuff, you're going to be useless. You're going to have no weapon to do damage, no weapon to do any status afflicting unless you obviously find one, and you're going to have a load of damaging seals which you can't do, or you mean you can use, but they're just going to be tickling the enemies. And realistically, if you didn't want to put the Dormant Powers Find Sacred Seals on, you can obviously run to certain POIs to find seals, which might be fine. You might be able to get the seals that you want, you might be able to get the support stuff that you want. The chances of you getting to every place to find the perfect seal, to even get a perfect seal, it's going to be very slim. So, to answer the question, would I play the Faith Scholar? Well, as you can see here, I am playing a Faith Scholar, and you would play him in the exact same way you would play any type of support scholar. You want to be applying statuses, stepping back, buffing your allies, debuffing the enemies, and generally making sure the team's survivability is a lot better. I mean, we found a number of good seals. Most of those I gave to the Revenant because obviously she was playing an actual caster. She didn't use any of them, so, you know, we just left them there. But I found one seal that had the Blessing of the Erdtree on. And if you don't know, Blessing of the Erdtree essentially just gives you a gradual health recovery, but it's for a large amount. Like, it's very quick. It'll fill up your HP well very quickly. So we probably found the best supporting faith tool you can actually find. Obviously there's, you know, damage negation ones, but with Healstar, because of his damage can be completely changed and whatever he wants to do, you know, it's quite difficult to take a damage negation one. Obviously, if you're fighting someone like a Fulgor and you found the Holy Protection one, that would work great. So, would I build Scholar to be a faith support character? I would not. I wouldn't even use the sacred seals, and I would just hope to find some decent seals in POIs if we're running past them, and just add it into your supporting kit. As for the build, this is the build that I ran, and I ran this for quite a few expeditions, all in depth 5. Every one of them we won, but that wasn't because of the faith supporting. That was just because we had good teams, and you know, Scholar generally can buff good players. A good player can be made 10 times better. If you're playing Scholar with a bad team, you're gonna have a terrible time. Now, of course, this completely changes when you have a dedicated team or using comps. Things like, you know, calling out when you want to be healed, calling out when to use the level 3 analyzed. I mean, that's just self-explanatory with the Scholar anyway. So yeah, you'll definitely have an easier time when playing with a dedicated team using comms. I would never build for it, and you know, if you can pick up some extra support stuff going through POIs, then sure, go for it, but don't actually build for it. Now, back to the first part of the question, where Nat has asked, I saw the Scholar has the potential to be a sorcerer with good relics. You've probably also in the video, you've seen Clanky Mocker, the absolute Chad, big shout out to Clanky, showcasing Scholar using sorcery. Now, first of all, if you haven't seen that video, I would advise going and watching it, because Clanky is absolutely brilliant at what he does. He covers the topic perfectly, and basically everything you need to know is in the topic. For my input, what I would say, right off the bat, doesn't matter how many buffs you give the Scholar, he's not going to do as much damage as someone like the Recluse or even the Duchess. And now, I'm very aware that he's not supposed to be doing that kind of damage. The whole point of Scholar being a sorcerer, or you know, at least playing sorcery spells whilst being a support character, is most of the time, if you're playing Scholar as a support character, you're not using his Dex Relic, you aren't going to be doing that much damage. Sure, you're going to afflict the status here and there, you're going to do some damage over time, you're going to get the occasional bleed proc, the occasional frost proc, but overall you're not going to do good damage. The point of him being able to use sorceries is you can inflict the status, back off, and you can still be doing extra small amounts of damage over time. Now again, it's not going to be game-changing damage, it's not going to be wiping out bosses, you aren't going to be doing a third of their health by using one sorcery. The whole point is being able to do constant damage, because let's be honest, constant damage is better than no damage. Now, would I prefer Recluse or Scholar on my team? I think for me personally, it would always be the Recluse. Mostly because the Recluse is going to do big damage throughout the whole run. She's not going to be a liability. Even when she dies, she's going to get up and she's going to do 1/3 of the boss's health. Now, of course, there are some people that will say, well, Scholar can buff you and give you an extra 30% health or, you know, extra damage. It can debuff the bosses. The Recluse can also do all of that with her ultimate ability. If you didn't know, because a lot of people don't know this, when the Recluse hits her ultimate ability, it debuffs the bosses by 15%. Not only that, if you've taken damage or if you need FP, every time you hit an enemy, your FP and your health will get refilled. You know, it works out to a percentage of the damage that you're doing, but essentially if you're taking damage, you can constantly keep hitting, constantly keep spamming your balancer relics if that's what you're doing, and you're going to get your FP and your health back. So overall, Sorcery Scholar is definitely a lot easier and probably a lot more fun to play than a Faith Scholar. A Faith Scholar, unless you're finding the absolute perfect seals, which there isn't that many. You know, there's a few healing spells, there's a couple of negation spells if you're fighting a specific boss. The rest of it is pretty pointless to use as a support character. You might as well just play him as a normal support character and do a bit of sorcery in the background so you can do some damage over time. Personally, I wouldn't play either of them. I would just play Scholar as either with the Dex Relic to do more damage, because, you know, the little arcane that you lose, you make up for it in the damage that you're going to gain with the Dex. But that's just me. Whenever I play the Scholar, I always feel like I'm a little bit underwhelming. You know, I've buffed my allies, I've pushed their health up, I've done their damage up, I've debuffed the boss, but look, outside of that, you're doing a little bit of tickling damage here and there. For me personally, Scholar just isn't as good as pretty much every other character. Now, that's not to say that he's not fun, because he is extremely fun, and it's very cool having someone very unique to play, especially in a Souls game, because, you know, let's be honest, most of the players in the Souls games are all the same, most of the characters. You know, there's a Faith caster, there's a Sorcery caster, there's a Strength build, there's a Dex build. So having this new complete character come in with all these new unique skills, it's very fun, it's very cool. So hopefully that answers the question. If any of you have seen other videos out there what you'd like me to go over, you know, maybe add a little bit more detail or go for the numbers in the data files like I always do, let me know in the comments and obviously I can do that. As always, gamers, stay safe, big love, peace.